gentlemen, we've been to the past. We've been to the future. We've been all around the afterlife. And you know, Ted, the best place to be is here.
What's up, guys? Welcome to the weekend update. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure top 5 movie, and also featured Kiss, which is what I'm going to try to do on this weekend update and keep it super simple. I'm going to focus on one main thing, and that's affordability. I'm going to give you a market update because I think we certainly deserve one, especially since we've seen the first little bit of rate relief this week in the last 5 weeks. So helpful. Is it where everybody wants their mortgage interest rate to be? Probably not, but can we get there? Definitely so. So big thing is, I'm shooting this on Thursday. Tomorrow is the labor report. So we got non-farm payrolls tomorrow. We did have ADP payrolls earlier this week, which is a good indicator. Something you got to understand is that the first Friday of every month, when we get the non-farm payrolls from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and I said I was going to keep it simple, that is based off of a survey of households. The ADP report is information coming from over 200,000 employers and their direct payroll. So 60,000 jobs added in March for ADP. The number projected for non-farm payrolls is slightly less than that. While ADP only looks at private held companies, the non-farm payroll also considers government jobs. So there's some contrast there, but generally ADP is a good preview into what we might see in non-farm payrolls. ADP came in at 60,000. Non-farm payroll projection is slightly less than that, which is an extremely low number. Overall, the jobs market has not been very strong over the last year. Virtually zero jobs created. If you take away the negative numbers we've seen and then add back the positive, we're sitting about flat. Something else that's important to note is that pay increases for job keepers, people that have not changed jobs, is up less than 5% year over year. That number reaches almost 7% for people that change jobs. But if you've ever changed a job, you know that can create some levels of uncertainty. I mean, can create greater income opportunities, but certainly there's some risk involved when you're changing jobs. So less people doing that now. So on average, people that are keeping their job, their income is up less than the average household appreciation we're seeing in the country right now. So there's your market update. You can always click on information on the weekend update, WKNDup.com dashboard, and you can get real-time rates and you can get real-time summaries as to why we're seeing what we're seeing. Stock market, I think, is down a little bit. Everybody thought, and why I had to wait until later today to see what information the president came out with on his Wednesday night speech. Well, it wasn't what some people had hoped for. It would have likely opened up floodgates for lower rates. It was an end to the war in Iran. That certainly was not the commentary. We could dispute what the actual commentary was last night. I'm not here to do that, but certainly he didn't say there's going to be an end to the war, and therefore there have been no opening of the floodgates. Another story I'll post on the jobs report expected for tomorrow. That'll be up on the weekend update. And finally, a few things that I want to draw your attention to. And it's something that I've been saying, and I'll show you in a mortgage coach for weeks. And it's probably only because I've been coaching mortgage for over 2.5 decades now. The April pivot. So we're seeing as rates crept up since the beginning of the war in Iran. The other thing that's probably not crept, but exploded is housing inventory. So again, this is putting buyers in a position to negotiate from a position of strength. You'll see on one of these graphs that I show you is that the average homeowner in January, or home buyer, I should say, looked at 4 homes before getting into contract. In March, 12 homes before getting into contract. That's just how much more inventory is on the market and how much pickier buyers can be, in particular with how they create affordability. So we've got the summary on the weekend update dashboard right now. We're going to continue our featured property with Chris Plato, a condo in Mission Valley, and I'm going to show you why in a second. Product Spotlight's probably going to change from MedPro, but that's a fantastic program for doctors and anesthesiology nurses. And then we've got the How to Create Affordability with a 3% Seller Credit. Before I get to that, let's look at the AI tool that I'm using this week. The April pivot, rates down slightly, listings up 42% year over year. Cancellations continue to creep up. We're going to change some of the dynamics of why those are canceling. And it's not a big shift, but it's something you still need to be paying attention to, whether you're representing buyers or sellers or both. And we're seeing the yields come down a little bit off of their highs of nearly 4.5%. April fallout logic is this strategic selection walk. So I think this has replaced the number one seed, which was appraisal gap. But if we look at these numbers, really this is about strategic walks from both buyer and seller. A lot of that I think has to do with buyers not feeling comfortable with being upfront about their credit wishes or concession wishes from the seller. So they get into contract, try to offer a request for repairs that has an abnormally large or unsubstantiated request for a certain credit amount. Really what they're trying to do is use that to buy down the interest rate. Sellers feel like that's a bit of a sneak attack. It adjusts their net profit and their net sheet, and the deal falls apart. Not necessary. Ounce of prevention versus pound of cure. That's why I'm going to show you the mortgage coach next. But strategic walks, sellers walking, maybe something with their purchase that they didn't like for their replacement property. So again, I think a lot of this stuff can be prevented. Appraisal gap, again, mind your farm. If you have been learning from Tom Ferry or Bavini, or I don't even know if I said that right, any coach, any mentor that's taught you how to farm, the last thing you want to do as an agent is bring down the value of homes in your farm. No different than a new home builder that doesn't want to discount price on their home because they'll run into issues with their next appraisals of their next phases, right? So they offer financing incentives. It keeps price integrity and creates better affordability for prospective buyers. So appraisal gap is kind of an issue that we can control if we address it appropriately. HOI premium rejection, just a lack of information and understanding and knowledge. Really, that boils down to a lack of preparation. And then same thing as DTI, redliner rejection. Either somebody couldn't qualify for a home, or they didn't do enough work up front to see what their actual principal, interest, tax, insurance, HOA, Melrose, and mortgage insurance, if any of those other things are applicable, would end up being. Check out this section. So the link is in there for the strategic pivot. And you can even look at strategies that, hey, don't take my word for it. These are things I've been recommending for years, some more than others. But even the AI now is going to tell you that with the amount of cancellations, sellers need to be better prepared. Some of that includes maybe an initial appraisal, so kind of a pre-appraisal, so you know that your value is accurate. Now, most of you as real estate professionals are going to have a good idea of where a home should be fairly priced. You're using comps to do this, but appraisal is not the worst thing to consider if you think you're going to run up against a potential shortfall. And then also making sure that you've got adequate backup offers or even gap coverage on that appraisal. So we've got AI strategies for buyers, AI strategies for sellers. Take a look at it. Let me know in the comments below if you agree or disagree with some of these strategies. I don't always agree with AI. And one of the things I'm not typically aligned with is on the buyer strategy. It talks about the increase in prevalence of buy downs that are permanent. We are on a lower rate trajectory. I think it's better for two reasons for people to consider just a long-term buy down. One reason, no cause for refinance requirements, right? And I say this as a lender. I don't want to habitually refinance clients, especially if they're not using an all-in-one loan. They're going to start their amortization schedule all over again. Doesn't mean that we're hesitant to help people save money, just that saving money can be construed inappropriately when we're talking about refinancing. You do it too many times, too often, or for the wrong reasons, you're actually going to cost yourself more money, and a temporary buy down will often lead to the need to do a refinance, where a long-term buy down is not going to require you to refinance. Your payment is fixed for the life of the loan, will never change, but also it increases purchasing power on your approval. So we do not factor in the lower payments of a temporary buy down for qualifications because they are temporary. And for a long-term buy down, you can actually increase the purchasing power of the family by reducing that interest rate for a fixed term. More on that on the next slide. Finally, let's go to the Mortgage Coach. The Mortgage Coach is my #1 tool for helping educate buyers and sellers on how we can effectively create affordability without costing the sellers more than is necessary. This is on the weekend update dashboard. If you want this to yourself, we'll post a link, or you can message me. If you've got a home that's $1 million and not 829, or 500,000, not 1 million, I can do this for you in minutes. My team will prepare this particularly for your specific home and give you these options. But in this case scenario, we're looking at a example of a condo in Mission Valley, listed at 829. Current rate for a condo with less than 25% down on a conventional loan is around 6.625%. Principal, interest, tax, insurance, HOA, etc., etc. You're looking at a payment of over $6,000 right now. Just the math, folks. This isn't CMG math. This isn't cross-country math. This isn't rate math. This is math. Okay, so if we just add those things together, affordability is an issue at over $6,000. If in lieu of doing other types of buyer incentives like price reduction, we'll get to that, seller were to issue a 3% credit to this model of a buyer, they could get that interest rate down into the fives, close to mid fives, and save themselves $423 per month. Now, if you were going to have a same payment on this property that's $829, a $5,600, a $423 savings over list price, you would need to reduce that price by $60,000 to $769, giving you about the same payment, $5,600 a month. Now, question for buyer's agents: are you writing offers on $829,000 properties that ask for $60,000 off? Oh, wait. Question for listing agents: if you're talking about a price reduction to increase visibility or interest or offers in your listing, are you going to the seller saying, hey, we've got an $829,000 home, let's reduce the price by $60,000? Let me know. I'll wait. Now, what we're seeing more of is kind of a grape in the ocean, or a price reduction of, say, $20K. Now, in this case, that's $829 list price, now down to $809. That's going to save a buyer with 10% down $138. Going to cost the seller $20,000, but will that really move the needle? Is $138 a month going to make your buyers charge into the listing that's been on the market for over 45 days? I'll wait. Now, if you came to that listing agent and said, look, we understand that $60,000 is too much, $138 is too little, we would like a 3% seller credit so we can buy down the interest rate and get our permanent loan payment down by over $400. Now we're starting to make sense. Let's look deeper into the math. By doing a 3% buy down versus a $20,000 credit, the buyer's going to save almost over $20,000 more in the first 5 years of ownership. When we look down the line, again, they're paying $20,000 more for the house. The interest paid difference on the 3% buy down, $571, versus the $20K off, $652, almost a difference of over $80,000 in savings by paying list price for the property, getting the seller credit in lieu of the $20,000 price reduction. Guys, I want to keep this simple, and I want to focus on affordability, not just for buyers. I want to focus on affordability for sellers to create an incentive going to get qualified, committed buyers into contract. We know the demand is there, but if we're seeing some stagnation in employment wage growth, and we're seeing some fear in the market due to either war, inflation, economic stagnation, this is what's going to change the needle for somebody to say, look, you're renting now, you're throwing away money. Don't live in the past, right? What happened a year or 2 years ago is done. But if we can get into a property today, we can start building equity at probably a rate higher than they're getting an increase in their wages. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, if this was too deep, you wanted me to talk to your team, you want me to talk to your clients, you want to do a one-on-one, just book it with me using any of the links above. Schedule some time. I appreciate you watching. Please like and subscribe. Share this video with someone that needs to see it. Have a great weekend. See ya.